Namaskar, Atlanta. I'm Ranjita Veena Paul, your host. Welcome you all to another session of Honoring Our Roots web series on Maharashtra Mandal of Atlanta virtual platform. This is a series, an initiative to bring inspiring stories of our own Atlanta Maharashtrians from various fields who are helping build community and serve people around us. I'm thankful and grateful to MMA and Mandar Vengurkar, the trustee of MMA, to provide me this opportunity and support this initiative. This is one of my attempts to create sense of belongingness in our community as we all belong together. Let's build our community together and share our kindness for the benefit of mankind. In today's segment, we are going to talk about the most trending topic these days, women empowerment. We are going to learn what is women empowerment, three dimensions of women empowerment, identify for empowerment, and also tips on how to empower yourself and people around you. To enrich us with the knowledge and experience, I would like to welcome Ms. Worther, a strong proponent of value based leadership, self sufficiency of women, and whole child. She volunteers her time as a success coach for Every Woman Works, a nonprofit that focuses on moving women from dependency to self sufficiency, and also as a mentor graduate mentoring program at JMac Robinson College of Business. And she's also a part of Georgia Association of Healthcare Executives. And for the past 10 years, she has volunteered with VIBA, a nonprofit that strives to bring equity in quality public education. Now she currently is on the board of VIBA and Innovation Academy, a STEM charter school based in Alpharetta. Wow, Vindali, you're one such powerful woman I have come across. That's commendable. Kudos to you.
Thank you for having me, Ranjita, and talking to another commendable woman here. So I'm happy to be here and talking to you.
Thank you. So the objectives of today's meeting is to have clarity of one's expectation, support, like seek information, and also autonomy, freedom to act and to make own choices. Vindali, I'm curious to know your journey from being a senior healthcare professional to volunteering for women empowerment. Could you share something with us?
Absolutely. Glad to, Ranjita, and thanks for that question. Really, I mean, I can go on and on about what all things I've learned through this journey, but I am trained as a dental surgeon in India. I practiced for a short time before I moved to the United States. And I moved to the United States after getting married. So I came here after marriage and then was thrown into a challenge and circumstances of choosing between pursuing dentistry as a career or doing something else. And given the circumstances, I made the choice to pursue business and got my MBA and a master's in health management, so dual degree masters, and then started working as a analyst with one of the corporate world, and it also and continued that path, if you will, as opportunities came to me. Really, my first volunteering effort actually started with Maharashtra Mandal of Atlanta.
Wow.
And in 2000, I want to say 2003, when we moved, 2002, we moved to Atlanta from Miami. And 2003, when we first attended one of the Maharashtra Mandal, I think it was a Ganpati festival. And when we attended that, they were talking about the BMM that was held here, the national conference, or actually international conference, BMM convention, that was held here in Atlanta in 2005. So we volunteered for that, and through that, really, that was our first volunteering experience in the US. And I volunteered in India before with mobile dental clinics for underserved children and Rotary, through Rotary Club and so forth. But in Atlanta and the US, that was our sort of a first step into volunteering for the community, and that was a great experience. Ajay Howde and Neeta Howde. They were presiding over the convention, and through them, I actually had the opportunity to meet Dr. Mashelkar, who was one of our chief guests. And his speech was very inspiring. I still remember being agitated after listening to his opening speech at the BMM convention. And that really sort of pushed me into thinking I need to do more. And then it was a New Year resolution in 2009, where me and another friend, Vishali Karnik, also Maharashtrian, we decided to just walk into a Vibha meeting. We researched, an organization. We wanted to do something for children. And we researched and found Vibha. We walked into a meeting, and now 10 years I've been volunteering with Vibha. And Vibha is an organization that works to provide equity in education, especially improving quality of public education in India primarily for underserved children. And we do have projects that have worked in women empowerment. Project of ours, a program of ours for past many years, located in slums of Delhi, where women from very challenged socioeconomic statuses, young women who would otherwise get married, are taught skills to be self-sufficient, right from being a beautician to a tailoring, computer science, like computer skills, so that they can actually work and fend for their families. So that was sort of my next, sort of my first exposure into women empowerment. On my personal side, I had my own struggles, to be honest with you, in my personal life. And being in the healthcare management field, that was on another side of struggle as a woman that I was seeing, because it is sort of well known that when you're in the management field, there is less and less women, especially less women of color. So that was the other challenge I was seeing. And I was also seeing the challenge of not being able to grow because of my family circumstances, the way my family was, structured, or my personal relationship was. So I constantly feel constrained in that sense. So I have broken through both those barriers, if you will, and I've realized that there is so much more that even people like me, and I still am questioning how come a person of, the family background that I come from, which is extremely, liberal for that matter. My parents did not ever bring me up as a girl. I was brought up as a human. You can do what you want to do. At the age of 15, I left my hometown. I was born and brought up in a small town in suburbs of Mumbai. I left at the age of 15 after 10th grade, and I went to Mumbai, and so did my sister, who moved to Mumbai at the age of 15 right after our 10th grade studies, and she pursued medicine, I pursued dentistry, and we were on our own. So we've never been brought up with any sort of constraints for being girls. Even though I was coming from that background, even with all the degrees that I sort of collected over years, and despite being financially independent, I realized how many challenges I had to break through at home as well as at work. So those challenges were, of course, creating a very combined, challenging environment. And at some point, I had to break through. So I realized that even with good circumstances, there are challenges. So when women are faced with not having the education, the family support, or the resources, or not financially independent, how will they ever get to achieve their dreams, or just freedom, just peace, right? Just be themselves. So when will that happen?
Yeah, freedom of speech to express their opinions.
Right? Absolutely, or do what they want to do. Really, simple things. And be able to make a choice, whichever way. I also realized that the community you surround yourself with, the friends, the society you surround yourself, plays a big role in it. And it took me a long time to break through that as well. And I will just share a couple things here. It is like I have just one son, and I've been told that one son does not complete a family. I've been told that if you have one son and don't have another child, then it's unfair to the child. So things like that have been.
If you have girls, they say you don't have a boy. If you have boy, they say you don't have a girl. And if you have a child,
one child, you don't have. Yeah. So again, we are constantly challenged with the choices we are making if they are different than the norms. And if those are the challenges I'm seeing in an educated, sort of economically established societies and communities, I just couldn't imagine what other women could be going through or going through. So again, I was very fortunate to have the resources, and talked. I have had a great influence, and through my social work and contacts specifically, I've had the constant education. Like I met Dr. Aparna Bhattacharya of Raksha, who's the director of Raksha, and then I've met Alpa Amin of Gain, and there's a lot of others, and I can keep naming them. But some of these people have had huge influence in the work they do for the society, and how that has influenced me in my personal life. And so in all, to come back to your question, how did I come from becoming a healthcare professional? I still work full time in the healthcare domain, and I'm sort of in a leadership position there. But what I'm truly passionate about, whether at work or in the community, is how can we help women who are struggling, irrespective of what background they come from,
Yeah.
struggling to find their herd, their tribe, and struggling to find an environment that lets them be them without any judgment.
Wow.
So
I
and-
guess that is what is probably called women empowerment. So, can you talk more about what women empowerment means?
yeah, I mean,
Very few people, everybody knows in bits and pieces. So, if you could put it across in words.
yeah, sure, I can try that. I can try my definition of women empowerment. I mean, when we think about empowerment, it's really having the authority to express yourself completely, right? It's the word authority sort of rhymes with, goes well with the power. And typically, authority or power is thought to be has a negative connotation to it. But to me, empowerment it truly is a space, a very safe space, whether it's at home, whether it's in your community, your circle of friends, or at work. In any sort of environment that you are in, it's a safe place where you can express freely, and you're in alignment of your thoughts, words, and actions. So you don't have to be thinking differently and saying something else and acting different. But really, empowerment is that where you feel aligned, you don't feel compromised in what you want, what you can do, and then reaching your highest potential, evolving and growing, and not feeling controlled or dictated by certain circumstances or certain people. So that's truly empowerment. And some of those circumstances are internal, and a lot of them are though external. So that's kind of
What are the various aspects to it? Because as we know in our day-to-day life, mostly it is the social conditioning while a girl child is being raised, that no matter what happens, you have to be adjusting, you need to compromise, we have to just go through this, it just happens. Do you think it is necessary for a woman to always accept that? Or like, I know, like, for a family to run in more positive way, both husband and wife have to make some compromises and have to come to an understanding to be on the same page, so that it is not for either of them. So what are the various aspects? In the similar way, we have aspects even in social environment, even in our workplace. Can you talk a little bit about those three?
Yeah, I can share my perspectives on it. I always find the word compromise quite compromising, because once you feel you're compromising, there is already a resentment in it. So I don't truly believe that any relationship, whether it's a relationship with an individual or a relationship with an organization, should be that of a compromise. It can be that of an adjustment. It could be that of a mutual understanding and agreeing to a mutual way of doing things. But once it starts feeling like a compromise, then it starts becoming resentment, adding to less and less empowerment for anyone involved in it, men or women for that matter. So I do believe that we should stay away from compromising. We should look at mutual agreements on how things can be done, and that mutual is very important, because then it should not feel I've agreed to do it. We've talked through different options to do something, right? You're faced with a situation, and there are multiple ways to handle a situation, and can we together in any relationship, and specifically in a marriage, can we come up with a way that meets most of our needs, the best outcome for both versus a outcome that one person wants. So it doesn't feel like a compromise, because those compromises then start adding on over a period of time, and it becomes a habit for both parties. Like, it becomes taken for granted.
Like, especially if a woman pregnant and still she is in workforce, still she goes into her delivery stage, so there is 9 months to it. So the behavior of the colleagues, like, um, what do you think during that time? I guess woman needs a lot of support, especially when she's closer to her delivery, and still there is work pressure. She her best, and she definitely, every woman would put her best in self, but still I feel there is a need there where woman has to support another woman, and men need to understand that, yeah, that woman needs to be supported because it's her time of need. For now, we just have to be a bit flexible and
Mhm.
nice and kind to her during that time.
Absolutely. I think work is a whole different dynamics to consider, right? If you ask a prospective manager, right, they'll say, "What type of employee do you want? I want a hardworking employee. I want a smart employee." All of that things, and considering some of the, like pregnancy, for example, right? They start fearing, I guess, of the lack of productivity or loss of productivity, even though it may not be true. It's just the sort of the fear in people's head. Having said that, there are two things that everyone needs to do, and some of this could be a policy. We're looking at policy changes, whether it is at the overall policy level or it is a company's policy, right? So there have to be some considerations given at the policy level, so everybody finds the same value system for such things, right? So it's not dependent on if your manager is nice, if you're surrounded with nice people, you get nice treatment, or you get fair treatment versus others. So some of these things have to be looked at from an employer perspective and more policy aspects of it. But as individuals, if we can start educating whoever is around us to, sort of saying that there are certain needs, there are certain physical aspects of being, for example, you're using the example of being pregnant. That awareness has to be there. If men and women are not aware of it, I mean, seriously, we have a bigger problem to solve for, right? Workplace or otherwise. So I think awareness has to be there. The management also has to be given tools with sort of working through whether it is required leaves, right? So they should be given those tools, and hence I think some of these things, if they are implied through policies, the people maybe feel more empowered to create an environment that allows a pregnant woman to work as long as she wants, without feeling, guilty or feeling threatened, and still enjoying the work in full productivity. I just mentioned one more thing here. I had the opportunity to meet someone, a journalist by the name of Josh Loos. He actually works in the field of how can we support women by creating more resources for men, especially during pregnancy, childbirth, and paternity leaves. If the men don't have enough family leave when the newborn is there, how can they support? How can they support their wives? So so there is a different side of women empowerment where we need tools for men and husbands and whoever the family is, to be able to help the woman at home, especially here when we don't have domestic help or family to help and support. That becomes even more necessary because the husband is the only person, or the spouse, or the partner is the only person who can be there. But if they don't have leave from work, and they have to now work extra hours to fend for the family or do two jobs or whatever, it just becomes a lot, and it becomes a lot for the mother to take care of. So just a short mention that there are some movements happening in the area of women empowerment where it's actually providing tools to men to support that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what do you call about the social conditioning, the way woman is brought up? Do you think that is responsible for the way she? That is the reason people are talking about women empowerment these days.
Yes, Yes, I think, social conditioning probably plays the biggest role. If you go back to our actions, they are driven from certain habits. Thinking is also habitual. The way you think is also habitual, but then it goes, and your habits go back to your belief system. So that belief system then comes from a mix of your personal values and the values that you've been given, or in whichever fashion, like it could be social conditioning, they could be forced on you, or things like that. So social conditioning, I think, plays a big role in everything. And it has so many aspects to it. You go in a store and the girls section is made of only Barbie dolls and things like that, so the girls are not given an option to play with other toys,
Yeah,
right?
nobody gives cars to girls. They always give dolls to girls.
Right.
Even
The
the
whole
comic books never have a super. It is always a Batman, a Spider-Man, but never a Superwoman.
Right. So there is those aspects where the industry, of course, marketing industry, the corporates or the whatever, the consumer side of things is using what exists in the society to some extent and markets to that. But that's one side of it. The second side of it is, oh, you can't, even for boys for that matter, you can't cry. If you cry, you're a girl. It also implies that only girls are constantly crying and whining. Well, that's not true. There are, that's not complete, that's generalized. Or you're a girl, so you can't run, you can't jump, you can't do this, you can't do that, you have to be at home at this time, you have to wear certain things. This is all part of social conditioning. So when you have to break through some of what you've heard all your life, right, it takes a lot of strength. It takes a lot of strength, and takes a lot of support. And in those circumstances, if you're not surrounded by the right type of people of a different breakthrough mentality, then you're stuck with those what we call broken rules or rules that we've been given for by our tradition, culture, and social conditioning. So yes, absolutely, to answer your question, social conditioning plays a big role in how we think and how we pursue ourselves, and even what opportunities we tap into and how we appear to everybody else. So that plays a big role.
Could you share an experience when you recognize the need to support and help?
I think it was always there in my head. Somewhere I was always a person who would jump in where I could help. It's weird, but sometimes I am able to give resources to other people much more than I'm able to use them for myself. So it's easier to easier to tap into resources for others than it has been for myself. But I think there's always been that component, and perhaps that comes from my social conditioning with the way my parents are, and what I have seen in my family or other things. So to say the list, that has always been there, but there were key pivots, I would say, key pivots throughout my life where I thought that was important. One is my personal struggle, and I'm going to go back to alignment of thoughts, your personal thinking, your words, and your actions. And that authenticity to me has always been important. Authenticity of what I think, what I say, and what I do has always been important. And every time I felt that I've compromised or have had to compromise on that, that's been an internal struggle. So that has always added on over a period of time with this very needed urge to go out and do something. So fortunately, I had the platform of Vibha, and we had some projects in the women empowerment, like I shared with you initially. But then I also found, like I mentioned, Raksha before as well, which works in the field of advocacy and justice for all, people with any sort of violence or, social injustice, but primarily for women as well. That, and then I also found an organization which is called Every Woman Works, that is located in Atlanta. And I started looking at it, and I felt that the work that they're doing is just phenomenal. It is taking women from extremely disadvantaged. I cannot stress the word disadvantage. Some women who are coming from
Domestic
battered home,
violence.
domestic violence, have been, substance abuse or mental health conditions because of their situation, circumstances, have sometimes even had a little bit of a criminal background, but they have accepted who they are. They want rehabilitation of their entire being, right? Coming out of all these vices that they have been put through and wanting a second chance at life. And to me, that one-on-one relationship with the women that I have been able to be a success coach to, I think it has given me more in that sense. It has empowered me more because when you see the strength that they have to break through not having education, not even a high school degree, not having financial resources, like no job, don't even know what a resume is, right? Sometimes are are staying in a rehab facility sometimes, to not having their kids with them for various reasons, whether it's court ordered or for their not ability to take care of them. Their kids are in foster homes. The strength to be themselves, to believe in themselves, and bringing them and seeing them come through, sometimes I feel ashamed of all the resources that we have as a society, in the society that we are raised and we are surrounded with, to see women struggle. So, that to me has been quite a breakthrough journey in my own empowerment. And I'm constantly challenging myself to continue to align what I think, what I say, and what I do, because that's an evolution. So again, Ranjita, I think at various points I've had these, personal, professional things where I've had felt the need to go and help others with whatever circumstances they are. So I'm fortunate to find those avenues to do so.
When does actually one recognize that they are affected by circumstances? Like most women don't even realize that something is happening to them and they're changing from what they were. How do they gain clarity? And at what point do they know that really this is not what it is? Like get a breakthrough. How does that happen?
That's a very difficult question to answer, but it's a very good one. And it is not easy to say this is a point where you will realize. We all say I had a gut feeling, but then we keep waiting for that gut feeling to be either constant, yeah, or too frequent, to really start realizing that there is something wrong in it. But you always have figured it out at the beginning. And again, that gut feeling comes from the fact of with your experiences and so forth. But it again comes with this is not how I'm supposed to be, or this is not how it's supposed to be. So something is off, right?
Oh, I guess this is not me. I cannot relate to myself anymore. I mean, in the next, they think that this is not what they are and they are not becoming better.
Absolutely.
That is the flag.
That is the flag, and it's such a slow journey a lot of the time, especially if you're in an abusive relationship. It's a very slow burn over a period of time, to the extent that you suddenly feel you're valueless, right? You're diminishing in who you are. You're diminishing your own value, your own thinking, you're doubting yourself. You come to a point where you are different than who you were. You're a changed person. You're not an evolved person, you're a changed person. And if a relationship changes you versus evolves or grows you, then there is something off. But again, very hard to sort of pinpoint. Every person is going to have their own way to find it. But I will just say, making yourself aware, constantly educating yourself. There is a lot of material out there. Keeping company of the right people, and I truly believe in this. You're almost the average of the 5 people you meet most with or hang out with. So, you have to look around you and say, what are the type of people I'm associating myself? Are those the people that inspire me? Are those the people that I can really depend on? And of course, you don't build relationships thinking about these criteria, but once you've built it, it's always time to reflect and say, are these the people that I can be vulnerable with?
Yeah.
Do I feel safe in an environment to say something so I can at least validate?
Not being judged, probably.
Not be judged, to be validate what I'm thinking is right or wrong. Sometimes we do need that, especially if you're in a very bad environment, you need a little bit of validation thinking, am I thinking off? Because you've been you've been gaslighted that all your feelings are off, you are off, you are wrong, right? You've been constantly told that. So in that case, you do need a little bit of validation. So it's a complex journey, Ranjita. Unfortunately, I don't think there is a simple answer to it. But the only way for us to get out is be true to yourself, not feel compromised, and then look around to see if you're in the right set of people, you know, and start having that conversation or be vulnerable to them. It's very hard to do, though, I can tell you from.
I mean, it's very hard. People go into their own shell. They'll just become invisible. They'll not talk to people. They'll just get into silence. And do you think that as a society we need to observe that in our close relationships, in our friends? If we see something off, then try to help them or refer them. It's a very sensitive thing for any individual, because unless and until they know, because more than they know, it is always the surrounding which comes to know first, right? What's happening to them. And at times, see, though I might be a very good friend of a suffering and I do see those symptoms, but I have to gather enough courage to go and be that first person to show her the mirror.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So as a society, like what we can do or how we can help or whom, like what is the right direction to it?
Right. Yeah. That's a great question again. I think as a society, you know who you're closest to. And I always have, and I've come to believe this more and more. If you cannot be vulnerable or somebody is not being vulnerable to you, then you question that relationship. Because if people cannot share their darkest moments, right? When I say darkest, not necessarily in a negative fashion, but the saddest moments, let's say,
Yeah.
your saddest moments, or your
Moments.
your weakness movements, or even mistakes that you have done, right?
Yeah.
To someone, then is that relationship a real relationship? Where you cannot be yourself, you have to hide yourself. If you don't have one or two of these relationships, then I think it's really tricky. But if you are in that situation where you do feel you have such a relationship and you see the other person struggling, hopefully if they tell you, it's a great thing. But if they don't tell you, if you see them struggling, I think you can always open up the arms and offer them a safe space to open up whenever they want to, without just making them feel that, yes, I am here for you. That is very important. I am here. I will not judge you. I will respect whatever you decide, right? And I am here to support you. I'm here. That is the key. Whenever you want, I am here. That's those three words I think are very powerful. So that makes it an open door for the person to reach out and say, hey, I'm ready to talk to you. I'm not ready to talk to you. And typically, like, to be very honest with
Give
you,
them time to come back to you and share. Give them that so that they feel safe and have the trust and come back to you when they're ready to speak about it.
so I'm hoping that everybody finds that one or two people that they can actually tap into. And the other thing I will say is the society has changed a lot. I personally felt through my journey and my personal life, I underestimated a lot of my relationships because I was afraid they're going to judge me when they were not. They were there. So I underestimated that. I underestimated even how much sort of ready and mature our communities have become towards this.
That's
And
wonderful to know.
it is, I think I have had very positive experiences. Fortunately, all the negative ones just disappeared, probably because they they probably didn't want to associate
Good for you.
that I do. I could continue working with Vibha. Of course, Vibha has provided me a great set of people that I know and can depend on. And same with my personal friends. So I think that's a blessing, but I realize not everybody is blessed with that. So I do realize that as well.
See, these days, immigrant community is more, right? So they have limited options. Friends, finding a long-term friend where they can share and things like that. So for those kind of people who are really struggling, who really want to seek out help, are there any organizations, are there any support groups in and around Atlanta that can help, that they can reach out to?
Good. Yes, of course. There's a lot of resources. We already talked about Raksha, for example. Of course, Raksha deals with extreme cases of violence and things like that, social injustice. But if there is just a small instances of fear or things like that, where you're starting to guess and gauge, there's a lot of places you can reach out to. And I think as a communities, as Maharashtra Mandal of Atlanta, or as we need to start creating those support groups as well.
Correct.
So I think what you're doing in terms of bringing communities together and bringing different social causes together is very important. We just need to raise the awareness of availability of that.
Sure.
People who have gone through it, I would not hesitate to reach out to them. And so you also have to take that first step to reach out to people and find people and just reach out. Most people are always willing to help, especially if they have gone through that. For those who have not gone through it, can be a little tricky, but for people who have gone through it, they're always help. That is what I've seen and learned through this. There are a lot of organizations around us that are working in this space and providing different support groups, different type of services, advocacy, policy change, and things like they're nonprofits in this space as well. So there's a lot happening in this space right now, which is we are very fortunate to be surrounded by these resources. Some of these are specific to Atlanta, but some of them do have a global presence, and you can look up sister organizations or circles or chapters in the city that you're closer to. The first one I've listed there is Raksha. Raksha is a great organization. I've had the privilege to know the work they do and see the work closely with them. I follow their social media page. I follow their executive director, Pranab Bhattacharya. The information, the resources, the knowledge that she and the team shares just around these issues, just around trauma bonds, relationships, abuse, other resources and scenarios is really great. So if nothing else, you can follow the social media pages and their websites to just get more education. So Raksha is one of them. To just note the work they work towards healing, empowerment, and justice for survivors of sexual assault and domestic violence, men and women for that matter. Raksha's programs and services include advocacy, counseling, safety planning if you're in an abusive relationship, economic empowerment, how do you survive after, and support groups. They also work through some of the immigration challenges that immigrants may have in working with lawyers and therapists and so forth. The second organization, Lean In, is a huge global organization, exists in circles or what we would typically refer as chapters, right? But they exist in circles across the globe. It was started by Sheryl Sandberg, CEO of Facebook, and with the intent that women can come in circles or, as groups, support each other's dreams and achieve their goals. They also have advocacy and policy change wings to them, where they publish studies on inequity in workplace. And how they want to change that, like salary discrepancies and leadership and roles and opportunities available for women. So it's a great place to look up your city and join a circle. Go and go and meet with a group, see if that jives with you. You can always find multiple groups in your city as well. Women in Technology is another great one. In Georgia, we have one. I've been fortunate to be associated with, or know someone who's in close loops with all these organizations. But again, another great venue for women who are in technology sector or any STEAM field. We know the challenges in being able to progress in these fields. So they do offer academic support for students right from middle school, high school, college, to workplace challenges. They have some really great program for single mothers wanting to have careers in STEAM and so forth, and mentoring and awards and things like that. Again, a great place for you to be part of. Dress for Success is a nonprofit. It's a global nonprofit, but you will find chapters or, in your city. So it empowers women to achieve economic independence. It's focused on, career exploration, dressing up for your interviews, professional attire, and all the development tools. That's a great one. Every Woman Works is where I had the privilege to volunteer as a success coach for the last year. A great organization that works towards moving women from dependency to self-sufficiency, getting their job, preparing them for resume interviews, job applications, how to talk, healing, overall healing of your being, and believing in yourself, building the self-confidence. Great organization. If you do not need to take their services, just as women, I would highly encourage women to volunteer with one of these organizations, or participate in their events, or just follow them on social media or their website, because you'll gain a lot of knowledge, a lot of awareness, reading stuff, connecting with them, attend the events, meet people, and so forth. Just creates a lot of awareness. Atlanta Women's Foundation is another good one. They have, sort of funding. They have funding opportunities if you're a small business owner, want to do something on your own. They have some of that. They have mentoring opportunities, and they really want to make Atlanta a safe place, and for women to be economically self-sufficient and have successful, happy lives. So, again, great place. Now, if you are already in a workplace, you can join your employee resource groups, different employee resource groups. I would suggest you join and take initiatives to meet with people, take initiatives because then you're developing yourself, you're developing your self-confidence in doing so. If you're part of a university or a school, I'm sure there are groups there. If you're part of a community like Maharashtra Mandal, then there are groups there, and there are people, like-minded people there. Find your herd and find your tribe, so you can continue to develop your personality, your confidence, and just yourself. There are other professional mentoring networks, like I'm part of J. Mac Robinson School of Business's mentoring network, and you can find mentors who are in the field that you are in, and they will be willing to mentor you or talk to you about it. Similarly, other professional networks that you may be part of, or if you're not working, still go ahead and find it. If you have a basic background or education or your interest, find organizations like that. Google is at your hand tips, so just reach out to people. And then finally, if you do feel like connecting with me, that's my generic email ID. I'm certifying as a life and health coach, so you're welcome to email me, and I'm happy to share my journey with you, happy to help you with yours, and so forth. So really, these are some of the resources. Again, if you don't want to tap into if you don't have the need, I should say, to tap into their services, you can definitely tap into them for information, education, awareness. And if you can volunteer with one of them, please do so. And of course, I'm going to end it with, VIPA, big part of VIPA. So we've had some amazing women leaders who have come through it and continue to challenge themselves, take initiatives, and build their, just build themselves and build other women together. So it's a great place where you can come and volunteer as well. So I hope this helps a little bit, Ranjita, for those who are looking for some resources. But there is help out there, and you just have to find the courage to reach out and speak up and find the voice for yourself, is what I would say.
In Mala, by Dr. Atul Laddu. We usually call him Laddu Kaka. He did mention that he is doing a support group for newly married couples, who are like, they have their own challenges, but they're not able to figure out how to, go about it, or because we don't have our parents here and they don't understand the challenges of this country and things like that. So there is a support group, and I guess even through Maharashtra Mandal, there is a volunteering group If anybody is looking for support, like in their marriage, in parenting, or any such kind of issues, non-professional help, there is a group. I will provide the details at the end of the show, and you can reach out to us, and I'll be more than happy to connect you guys to them.
And
I
right.
guess from the Indian cultural background, it's it's very hard for people to ask for help. But fortunately, I was brought up in a family where always we asked for help, always delegated the task so that we could be more productive and be more efficient, so that we value everybody's time. But in the society as such, in Indian culture, we usually don't ask help, and we get burnt out, and that is when we like, okay, really, I need help. But why don't we, like, when you really feel that it is getting little stressed for you, why not go ask for help? And now ask really in trouble, in stress, and that's a big thing. When we are not able to ask very small helps in our day-to-day activities, it's very hard for them to just come up, open the door, or knock your door and say, hey Vindali, I have some problem, can you help me? I guess society should play a very big role. So how can we promote?
Again, I think what you're doing is a great to start off with. A dialogue is important. I think when it comes to women empowerment, involving more men is extremely important in this dialogue, because I always feel us talking to us about us is not going anywhere, right? So, us talking about us to everyone else is what needs to happen. So I think men have to start playing. I truly believe this. Men have to start playing a big role in this dialogue.
Supporting women. Yeah.
Yes. And there are men out there who are doing some phenomenal work in whichever way they can, but we just need more and more men to come in, because again, we are only 50% of the population. All the dynamics is between men and women. When you think about it, women have to play a big role in terms of raising the children with the right, value system. And when I say women, it's a lot of the raising of the children is still mostly stayed as a woman's role. Is changing now. I see more and more fathers and dads getting involved in it, but it's still primarily stayed that way. So that also has to change. So when the kids in the society see both parents playing equal roles and not being factored by the gender, their roles are not decided by the gender. They're decided by who is good at it and what one person desires, and a mutual agreement. If both don't like something, somebody's got to do it, right? So there is a mutual agreement or a mutual distribution of that. When they see that, the children growing up are going to that's going to be their natural state. That's how they're conditioned then. That's their social conditioning. So we change that. But as a community, I think conversation is great. We need to see if we can create truly resource group that is a mix, inclusivity, sense of creating a sense of belonging. A lot of the women who've gone through bad experiences or divorces or whatever, things, don't feel included by the society. They start going away because there is that fear of judgment or whatever that is. They need to start continuously feel inclusive. Just because they made a choice does not make them a different person. They are who they are. It's a personal choice they had to make for whatever circumstance.
Yeah, as you rightly said, sense of belongingness is what, I am there for you, for me. Even if I'm not your friend, I still feel responsible, because if I observe something, I'm just not going to keep quiet. I'm going to say something about it because I know that it is wrong, right?
Yes.
To step up to that role as a community person to build another person actively, I guess most of them are just passive or just ignore. Why should I get involved into it? That kind of a social conditioning.
That has to change big time. And nothing agitates me more than when people say, I don't know what I have got to do. It's nothing to do with me, right? Especially societies or individuals who are highly educated and in a good economic status. If we are not going to be the change makers, then how can you expect the rest? They're struggling with daily bread. They're struggling with daily other challenges for themselves. But if we have risen to outside of that challenges and we are not doing anything, then who else is going to do? How can you expect others to do it? So that really agitates me when people are just living their usual lives, and weekends are spent mostly in cultural parties or cultural events more than doing things for the society. That really agitates, seeing that really agitates me a lot, and I hope we can change that, and I think it's changing quite a bit, but more and more has to join. So again,
And
as
creating more awareness and
yes,
including every, not just being biased by gender, making keeping everybody involved and giving whether we have a child or whether it's a girl child or a boy child, raise them with equal values and respect for each other.
absolutely. And there is a lot of emphasis on girl child education typically, and it is the right emphasis, but we can't have girls get educated and be thrown into relationship that don't allow them to be themselves. You can't show a person a dream and say that dream cannot be fulfilled. So you're giving an education to a person to say you can be self-sufficient, you can be who you can be, and then you cut off their wings. That is more disastrous than not giving wings to someone, because ignorance is bliss sometimes, and unfortunately, we are trying to kill the ignorance, but we need to create an environment that then fosters that growth on a continuous basis and not stagnate it. So we can do that. The other thing, again, action oriented stuff, creating like a place of resource, having counselors available, that can be specific to certain societies, because where you come from, language you speak, the culture you're from has certain implications. So people from the similar backgrounds can actually can actually serve better in understanding all those multifactorial, it's a complex thing, and multifactorial aspects of it. But in general, I think having counselors available, having resources like lawyers available for women to know their rights. But the other things that certain sectors have done is created like microloans, or right, for women who can do their own businesses, creating little more resources, financial
Or
assistance,
even providing shelters when they are in financial crisis and things like that. I
absolutely.
do see some shelter homes providing these supports. Social workers working on their cases to identify the need, and if they really meet those needs, support.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a lot of things that can be done in a socio-economic, political fashion as a community, advocacy groups, support groups. But they have to be all inclusive, because us talking to us about us doesn't help.
It's such a lot of information, loads of information. I guess we can go on this topic. I guess the more awareness we have about ourselves and what rights, as you rightly said, what rights we have and what is actually right for you. Because some people are not that motivated as few individuals who are really motivated, who are career oriented. Some people are happy being home and just being what they are. So we have all kinds of individuals and we need to cater to everybody. Everybody needs to have that respect and the freedom, no matter what gender you are and what age you are, right? Lots of good learning. Ali. It was really a wonderful session learning more about. I guess I learned more about women empowerment, the idea what I had in mind, and learning from an experienced person who's already empowering other people through volunteering work and providing education. It's wonderful learning for, I guess, for all the audience also who are listening. It's very valuable. Could you share one key message that you would like to give away to the audience listening today?
Since we're talking about women empowerment and empowerment in general, I truly believe that you should feel authentic at all times. So when that is challenged or compromised, you have to reach out and choose a different path, whatever that is. Whether you fight it, whether you choose to leave it, whether you choose to accept it, that's your choice. But ensure that you feel authentic in who you are each time, every day. So that's what I would say. And as a community, I would say that Let's be there for everyone who needs help. Especially, let's create the sense of belonging that you were referring to, Ranjita, and let's create a pool of resources that can be easily tapped into so we don't struggle with some of the basic needs for such circumstances. So,
Thank you so much, Pindali. I really would like to quickly summarize whatever we went over today. All need to keep in mind that we need to have clear goals and expectations of life and seek support if really required from the right people and the sources, as you rightly put it across, and also have the freedom your own choices, because your life is all about your own choices. I would like to thank our guest Vindali Vartak for sharing valuable information and experiences on the woman empowerment. This is a recording of the session and it will be available on MMA YouTube channel and on various MMA media platforms. If you have not subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe to receive further notifications of more series on various topics from our own local Atlanta Maharashtrian crowd. Kindly also let us know in your comments about this segment or any feedback you might have. We'll also include a survey link for you to share any other valuable feedback. Thank you for listening to the session.
thank you. Thank you for having me.